Welcome to the Voice on Demand Retail Podcast by the Middle East Council of Shopping Centers and Retailers. Our guest today lived in the UAE for 6 years. He originally started with Colliers International, then joined CBRE for 3 years ago, having built the retail team from scratch. After joining CBRE, he worked and had continued to do so closely with many of the CBRE international offices. He contributed massively to its continued business growth. Anthony Spary, ladies and gents, Director and Head of Retail at CBRE Dubai. Anthony, thanks very much for coming here today. Why the passion for retail?
Good question. I think I've always had a passion for retail from a young age, always been a bit of a keen shopper. My real estate career started off more focused on the office side of things. And I think when I moved to Dubai, pretty clear that retail is a core pillar of the Dubai economy, and it's a very emotional sector in Dubai, maybe more than other places. So
yes, there's so many things going on, right?
Unbelievable, and such an impressive portfolio. So it was something that naturally I got more and more involved in the longer I've been here. And yes, as you said in the introduction, so it's something that I've taken on over the last few years in greater detail, and something that's hugely enjoyable. I mean, I grew up with brands that I've loved, like Nike and Canterbury being a keen rugby player, and Salomon and these kind of historical brands, and then more recently brands like Allbirds and Under Armour, Ralph Lauren, Montblanc. So some of those ones that are kind of my go-to brands. So for me, it's something that I have a huge passion in, seeing how retail develops, kind of what the trends are coming in globally and regionally, and for us, how we can come in and support our clients, no matter who they are, no matter what sector they are, and take it from there.
That's great. And Anthony, what was the most memorable project you had with CBRE?
I think we've got probably a couple of easy answers on that one. One being, we've been very lucky to be in support Meydan One Mall in the
oh yes, it's
in
a
the
very big
consultancy side of that asset.
Yeah.
It's not every day that you get asked to support a 3.5 million square foot
It is quite big,
asset. There's not too many of those across the world. So that was a massive privilege for us, and something that the whole team got involved in, not only from the leasing team side, but the consultancy side, and really looking at kind of adding value to the mall at a pre-leasing and at a early construction stage. So for us, it was a case of working collaboratively from a local standpoint, but also a huge opportunity for us to actually work with our international offices, and that's something I think we'll probably get onto a little bit more later, but it really kind of showcased the network that CBRE can leverage, and also kind of how our international offices can support us here in Dubai and regionally, and that's just been a huge privilege for us, and it's really opened up a lot of opportunities going forward around the types of retailers that are looking at coming into this market. With Meydan, obviously with its free zone licensing, it has a slightly different pull when it comes to offering direct entry, and again, I'm sure we'll come to that later, but that has really opened up a lot of doors, and it has really got retailers quite excited about the prospect of coming in, and of course the whole landscape is going down that route now anyway. So that one's been a fantastic project to be involved in. And likewise, whilst it's not so much heavily focused on retail, we've also got ICD Brookfield Place that CBRE has been involved in for the last 4 years, and it's primarily an office asset, but some fantastic retail coming through there as well. You've got the Arts Club from Mayfair in London that's going to be opening there later this year, and they've been really looking at kind of focusing on destination and place and public realm, really a lot of the trends that we're seeing in the retail market globally, and Brookfield being one of those international players is bringing kind of best international practice into their asset, and that's delivering in a few months' time, and that's hugely exciting as well. So good to get a kind of a local and an international developer that we've been working with, and those have been a fantastic examples of what this region can deliver.
Yes. So there's so many things going on. That's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
CBRE has been a member of MECS+R for a very long time and have serviced many of our members in the retail industry. With the era being what it is today, the landscape had evolved and still evolving actually. Many are asking what's going to happen next. Anthony, can you shed us some light on the changing face of retail landscape? Yes, what's going to happen next?
The magic question.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one to answer, and I suppose there is no easy answer. I think we are certainly in a stage of transition. The market is going through a correction, it seems, at the moment. But with anything that there are certain elements of the market that are going through challenges, and with every challenge, I think there's an opportunity. And we're always personally, I'm a very half glass full person, as is CBRE, but we are aware of the challenges that are ongoing, and we're seeing, for example, further supply coming into the market over the next couple of years, and that is definitely going to create pressures on the existing portfolio that's already here within the region. That being said, what we are starting to see is certain vacancy in prime assets, which for us is hugely exciting, because we have opportunities for the retailers that we're working with that are keen to go into the large regional, super regional malls, or good quality specification, maybe lifestyle assets. They all of a sudden have opportunities to take advantage of that vacancy. And a lot of the brands that we've been working with have been biding their time and waiting and holding to enter the market, whether that be for many different circumstances. But vacancy has always been a challenge. We've always been very, very lucky at having waiting lists and a very small vacancy rate in a lot of our major assets in this landscape. So for us, that gives us an opportunity. I mean, I think you're certainly going to see a continued involvement of e-commerce in this region, and I think that's just a natural progression that we're going to see here. But I think the importance of seeing what's happened elsewhere in the world is to get that understanding of that omni-channel, which is a buzzword that we've been using for many years now, but is still relevant in the sense of the balance between your physical retail, your online presence, that experience that you can build in through your brand. I think that's going to be more critical now than ever. So that's certainly something that we're going to have growing. But naturally, I think you get with the culture, with the climate, that bricks and mortar retail is going to be here for the long term. It's just finding that right balance between the platforms. And I think we're naturally seeing that with the retailers, with how they're evolving here, the quality of the e-commerce platforms that are being rolled out now.
New players entering the market.
Yeah, new players entering the market. I mean, the likes of what Namshi have done, I think is fantastic. So I think really that's only going to continue. But again, as I said, it is getting the right balance between the two. So giving you an example on that, we had one of the reports that we released at the end of last year, and we had Spencer Levy, who's our chairman of America's Research, looking at the impact going forward of what Generation Z will have on bricks and mortar retail. Very, very interesting when you look at, for my generation, I grew up without a mobile phone as a kid. And when you start having technology introduced throughout your life that is a new concept, it's been really interesting to see that actually for a lot of our generation will go heavily more towards the e-commerce platform and like that convenience. When you're Generation Alpha or Generation Z, that's something that you have since day one. You have that technology at your fingertips, and that's something that you expect. And actually what we're finding, and the report that we issued last year was very much more around the fact that generation are very much more hands-on. They like the convenience and the technology, so they'll use more of a click and collect, where they will look and surf online, and then they will then deliver the product, or the product will be there for them to pick up in store. And what we're seeing really from there's some numbers here which are fantastic. I mean, $143 billion a year from Generation Z. And then, but they're implementing another $450 billion per year. And what we're finding from the study that we did is 81% of that generation prefer to go into store and collect their goods, which is really breathing new life, in particular into the assets in the US, into this mall format. And it's really how those malls are evolving to cater to that demand. You look at the numbers around click and collect, for example. I mean, 70% of customers that go back into a store are more likely to buy further goods when they go in to collect goods, instead of just having a one-click, one transaction online. So again, it's that balance of making sure that you get that click and collect, you get the experience, you get the repeat footfall. So that's something for us that we're certainly seeing in a new wave and a new trend coming into the market, and no doubt that's going to translate here as well. So, and especially, as I said, with the powerhouses that we have of mall format retail here, that's going to be very interesting to see how that translates going on in the near future. So, where else do we talk? We've got entertainment. That's a huge factor in this market now. You've got more and more developers either looking at redeveloping or looking at extensions or whatever it might be into their assets to create more of an entertainment component. Historically, 10, 15 years ago, you'd have quite light entertainment components within assets, and now you're looking, and again, this is something we've been talking about for many, many years, but now we're starting to see it being rolled out, and actually we're looking at 10, 15, 20% of an asset being attributed to entertainment, which obviously has got the dwell time. Everyone knows this, this is not rocket science, but we're lucky with the fact that this market is so dynamic that you can evolve and offer this change quicker than other markets globally. So, and we're certainly seeing that more in Saudi. I mean, Saudi has got the ability to kind of take some of the lessons learned from the UAE, and they're really looking, some of the developers in Saudi are really looking at using entertainment as their number one anchor. I mean, much higher percentage components, 30-40% of their schemes based on entertainment. And then there'll be ancillary F&B and some retail, well, that'll be specifically positioned retail that will complement the surrounding demographic and catchment. So that's something that's really exciting to see how that landscape is changing and how they are using best practice and past experiences from the region, and then using that into developing their future schemes over there. So that's something that's never going to stop. We're seeing a lot of interest from outside players that are looking at taking entertainment space here, and they're not looking at small boxes. You're talking 30, 40, 50,000 square foot. We've got some entertainment concepts that we're working with that are standalone concepts, that are really quite exciting, that will take large chunks of people's master plans, and it really is destination driven. And at the end of the day, you've got that surrounding retail that will support it, and then you've got quite a nice balance of your retail. So that's certainly a trend that we're seeing. I mean, I could go on here, but I think from an occupier side, we are seeing changes around what you're offering to the consumer. So, you've got the likes of, let's say, Lululemon, for example, have just updated their store in Mall of America, and it's not just a store. I mean, they've got fitness class studios in there, they've got juice bars, they've got coffee, they've got relaxation areas. Yeah, because essentially at the end of the day, you want to be sat. You want to be seen. If you want to drop your kid off at a class or something, whatever, around the corner, if you've got anything that you want to do, they want to try and cater to somebody that can spend a couple of hours in a store. I mean, we've never done that before. So
true.
That's
because the demand was not there before.
Demand's not there. You'd go one place for this, one place for that, and then you just bounce around. And actually, convenience and time is everything, right? So more important than ever. So it's really exciting to see what they're doing. And you've got the likes of Louis Vuitton. Right. In Osaka with their new flagship, which is their first venture into F&B. You've got Tiffany Blue Box Cafe that is doing extremely well in the locations that it's gone into. So it's really about that connection between consumer and the brand in a world and a marketplace that is so competitive and so convenient, the likes of e-commerce. It's about maintaining that relationship, and I think that's critically important, especially here as well. No matter where you're opening up locations, if a consumer, if I go into a store into Dubai or New York or London or Paris or Tokyo, you expect there to be continuity between all the stores, and I think that's really, really important to deliver that here, and to ensure that, because Dubai is such a cutting edge of retail, that developers and occupiers alike are both ensuring that those recent trends are implemented into their assets and through their stores as well. Yep.
That's what I love about Dubai, about the whole region, in fact. It's literally in the center, and there's so many things going on around the world, and this region is so flexible in adapting all of those things.
Exactly, yeah. It's so diverse as well.
It's so diverse as well, yes.
Yeah, for sure. And I think from diversifying as well is going to be critically important. You look at the likes of some of the e-tailers, the online guys that are kind of taking some of the physical store space now. So, I mean, that's going to be quite an exciting change. But, I mean, when you've got sectors or you've got retailers that are not performing for whatever reason, and you do find vacancy, it does seem like there's a pipeline there, which might be a change to the old pipeline. But it gives a different dynamic. It attracts a different demographic. It attracts a different generation. So that's just the evolution I think we're seeing globally. That's naturally with the portfolio that we have here. No, of course not, and nor should you. And I think it's just how you adapt to it.
Exactly.
That's the key. It's like any project, like anything that you deal with. How quickly can you adapt? And I think that's where Dubai has an opportunity. The pace that we can adapt here is a lot quicker than anywhere else. So, and I think that's testament to Dubai as a country, a city, and kind of how you position yourselves for growth going forward, I think is a huge opportunity here.
Yes. And also, like what you said earlier about new players coming in the region, because the region is so diverse in terms of demographics, population, there's so many things. There's actually new players coming in. Now, I myself came from Asia Pacific, so I know that demand is much more than what the region have at the moment when it comes to Asia Pacific brands. And to be honest, it leaves me hungry and craving back home, honestly. And the percentage and demographics, population changing, I think many investors are realizing this. That's why new players are coming in.
Yeah, I think so. I think look, you take our most recent How Global is a Business Retail report. I mean, Dubai was ranked number one for global retailer presence. So 62% of global brands are based in Dubai. With number one, I think number two is Hong Kong. So, that is, again, testament to the retail landscape, but that still leaves us 38% to get hold of, and that's
opportunity.
That's opportunity, right? So yes, we're number one, but how do we grow that number? And what's really important for us, and what we've been really focusing on probably the last 2-3 years, is what new brands are looking, what new brands are looking at going into emerging markets, and why are they not here? What are they doing? What are the barriers that have stopped them in the past, or how does their business model work that maybe hasn't allowed them to operate here in the past? And I've got to say, about probably 60% of the brands that we're working with are from the Asia Pacific region, because we do have a very good proportion of European and Asian, American brands, US brands here. And I think that gap, as you said, Justin, is that gap is Asia. And I think largely because of the way that those markets work historically, they can be quite insular, or they do pinpoint certain cities and countries that they identify as their priorities. And I think now either that's changed, or they're already in those markets now and they're now ready to go into what they would class as emerging markets. So for us, it's hugely exciting because we've done that groundwork. We've done a huge amount of work kind of sitting with these guys and educating them on, first off, it's more of educating them on the region. Then you start looking at drilling down into cities, demographics, catchments, barriers to entry, all those points that they kind of need that support on. So, and I think one of the major reasons they haven't been here is probably the licensing. In the sense of some of these brands have not come in because they would like to maintain control and come in as a corporate entry, and obviously we're now seeing a huge amount of change in that regard. But it might just be their business model. As I said, they might have been focusing on other regions beforehand, or they might have been unsure as to how well their brand would translate in this marketplace. And I think when you go out and you speak to them, you sit in front of them and say, look at the brand exposure that we have here. Look at the presence that we've got. Quite extraordinary, and it really is. And you look at the melting pot that we have of nationalities from which is another unique factor that we have in the UAE, and there is a target market. And you look at the brands, look at the likes of Jollibee, how well that was received.
Oh,
when
yeah,
it came in.
yes. Very well.
I've been there when it first opened.
And,
There was line all the way from Jollibee
I
to
waited
the
for 2
escalator
hours.
Dubai Mall, right?
When the first branch it opened, I waited for 2 hours. I was there, and I'm being very realistic here. It's 2 hours I waited on that line.
Yeah, but what's great, I mean, it's not just Filipino consumers that use it. You look at
Chinese brands as well.
They're beginning to try Jollibee as well.
Yeah, exactly, which is fantastic, and that's what you need, and you get the exposure to so many different nationalities when you open up here. It's not just about your core customer that you might have in your home market. It's a totally different approach to retail. You look at the likes of Daiso, a value brand from Japan that I think resonates across so many nationalities here that seems to be doing very well. And you look at Din Tai Fung, how well that was received when it first came into Mall of the Emirates, for example. So I think it's a big gap that I think the consumer really wants. But these things take time, and some of these conversations that we've been having with some of these brands, and we've got a casual dining F&B brand that's just about to enter now. It's been 2.5-year conversation. Would only come in on a direct 100% owned basis. We're very clear on that. I mean, and they've been waiting and biding their time to get the right location and the right opportunity with the licensing, etc. And they're going to come in and grow quite quickly, which is quite exciting. And likewise, we've got with Japanese brands. I think our main focus is probably Japan, Korea, Singapore, China, and Hong Kong, particularly around entertainment, F&B, fast fashion from Japan for sure. So it really is, there's multiple sectors who are looking, but timing is critical, and also that right location. If they're going to come in, they want it to be right, and a lot of the guys that we're talking to are looking at coming in on their own. So those questions that might normally be taken care of by a franchise partner or a joint venture basis, they need to tick off themselves, and when they're not based here, those conversations and that due diligence takes that little bit longer. So so we're trying to support them as best we can. But hugely exciting times. And actually, you look at the likes of what developers are doing for Chinese New Year, for example. I mean, it's amazing, right? Really recognizing that as a key part of the year, and I think that's only going to continue. The government's got obviously the initiatives and is trying to get closer with the likes of China and a lot of Asian countries and India as well. We've done quite a lot of work with quite a few Indian brands looking at coming in. So there's definitely the demand from these countries. It's about finding them the right opportunities at the right time. So that is going to be that's going to keep us busy for many years to come, I'm sure.
The question is, do you think if we start adapting now, are we too late already, or do we still have the chance to adapt?
No, I don't think so. And I think that comes back to the point I made earlier. The pace that of change here is quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not in a world of the likes where, I mean, everyone's aware of the challenges that are being faced in the UK at the moment around, you know, e-commerce is incredibly strong, and there are pressures on the UK high street. But I think in a more mature market such as that one, you've got, you know, lease lengths that are very long. For some of the department stores, they're, you know, locked into 15, 20, 25-year lease terms. You know, markets change in that time, and it's how you evolve your brand quickly enough to react to that change. And we here are seeing lease lengths of probably 5 years, maybe 3 years in certain cases. So that's really giving brands the opportunity to assess quickly about where they want to be located. There's definitely going to be cases where brands are looking at their portfolios. Retailers are really looking at that optimization. I mean, are they in the right locations now? Is a location that was 5-10 years ago, it might have been right then, is it still the right location now? That's definitely changing. And I think we're certainly seeing as well, with new brands coming into the market, you know, they're taking a more cautious approach, carrying out more due diligence, and really being a bit more reserved on the amount of locations they'll take from day one. So yeah, there's definitely opportunity. There's going to be change. I think for certain retailers, no doubt, you know, we're not immune to what's happening globally here.
Yeah, true.
That some of these paths are written potentially for some of these retailers, and that's inevitable. But I think the pace and the dynamism that we have here gives us the opportunity to really react quicker. And developers are certainly reacting. I mean, and we're seeing. I mean, the flexibility that's being built in now to some of the commercial proposals we're seeing from developers is exactly what is needed at the right time. And I think not only from a new to market brand, but also from brands that are kind of retailers that are getting to their renewal stage. Really refreshing to see that kind of win-win approach, not a sign it, take it or leave it mentality, and which, you know, might have been that archaic historical mindset when you had a waiting list of brands. And it's really making sure and opening up to retailers. And it's critical that transparency is there between the retailer and the developer now, I think, and to know that you're both invested in success. And I think we're seeing developers putting more flexible terms on the table, whether that be around escalations, you know, looking at lease length, looking at, you know, whether that be break options, whether that be turnover rents. Well, it depends. It's packaged up on a case-by-case basis, and it really is addressing the key requirements of the occupier. And I think the more flexibility we see from the developers, the better, because that's going to be then the platform for sustainability and for growth.
You know, it reminded me of, I had a discussion with a friend of mine in a bank last year about them on being more engaged in the Middle East and Asia. Well, they actually went public with a statement 2 weeks ago, this is HSBC. Okay. They're going to be more engaged with Middle East and Asia for the next years, starting this year. And it's amazing.
Yeah, and I think the more the outside world looks at the Middle East as an opportunity, in Dubai being that hub and that mature hub, really, and giving occupiers across multiple sectors the confidence to grow their regional business from here. And I think you've got obviously Saudi as a natural player in the market that is just going to continue to emerge. And I think we'll have the opportunity to find a really good balance between what Dubai is offering and what Saudi is offering. I think we're not really seeing too much competition around in the retail landscape around competing assets as such. I think it's going to be a different landscape over in Saudi to what's delivered in Dubai. So they should complement each other quite well for going forward. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely government initiatives out there to try and increase the focus on the Middle East, especially from Asia, as we've touched on, which is only a good thing. And I think the more foreign investment that we can get here, again, not so much necessarily on retail, but across the retail market, the more foreign investment we get, the better, because the more, again, it comes back to transparency, it comes back to best in class, it comes back to it sharing international best practice. So the more we can gain from international developers that are taking space in this market, like a Brookfield, for example, with Brookfield Place and their recent JV with Morass.
Oh yeah,
hugely exciting, because of course Brookfield and in Brookfield Place, for example, there's certain elements around open service charges, really communicating to the occupier, you're paying this fee and this is what it's attributed and this is where your money is going. Things that have been rolled out across a mature market for many, many years that we should really start expecting. If we're talking about best in class retail, if we're talking about international best practice, those are the kind of initiatives that we should be rolling out in this market, correct? So, and those are kind of things that we need to start seeing. And I think if you're asking occupiers to pay certain costs with the challenges that they're facing, then they really need to understand where those costs are going. And I think those kind of that kind of investment, that kind of entry into this market is only going to help. And of course, you then diversify your market even further. And we need the more diversification, the better. And I think that helps future-proof the market for many years to come.
Yeah, that's right. And how can CBRE support clients in the region, and what can be offered to assist in the business strategy?
Okay, so here's our plug, all right? So look, I mean, the CBRE that we have within this region is exactly the same as you'd expect from any other CBRE office worldwide. I mean, what I love about our company is that we're over 100,000 employees in over 65 countries, yet we try and offer, it's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot.
But I think what our clients would attest to is that it's very much it's a local approach.
Yeah.
We try and make it feel as much like a family business. We really do try and wrap our arms around our clients as much as we possibly can and support them. You know, we try and give as much of an advisory supporting role to our clients as we can. It's not just about transactions. It's not just about single one-off service lines. It's really, really important for us to support our clients from day one, from a research to valuation to land, from whatever it might be. We like to be supporting our clients throughout that process. I mean, as a quick snapshot as what we can offer, we from a retail perspective, we represent brands within this region. There are brands here that we represent globally that we don't necessarily represent here, but there are also some of those brands that we do represent here. And we also look after some homegrown concepts here as well, which we've got huge pride in working with, because that's a massive initiative from the Dubai government to really try and help homegrown concepts thrive. So that's something that we're very passionate about, and we represent certain landlords when it comes to filling their spaces. We've got retail analytics tools that we have, that it's a global tool that helps and supports developers and occupiers in assessing their real estate outside of assets. I mean, Calibrate is a tool that we use that I could talk about for hours, but really helps developers, for an example, understand their footfall from outside their asset.
Yeah.
So where do their consumers live, work, play? How do their consumers, what competing assets do they go to, etc. So, and also on the flip side, it helps occupiers understand what's the potential cannibalization that I have with if I take a store in this location, how many of my consumers currently go to this location, and how many might that affect that current location and that current portfolio, and it looks at their consumer around spending power, etc. So that's really powerful as well. But we've got asset management. We manage assets here as well, from all retail assets, retail, commercial, etc. We've got project management, so we look from the fit-out element. So we project manage brands and occupiers in this region, and I've got a very strong project management team. We've got retail valuations. We value some of the largest retail portfolios in the region. So yeah, I mean, that list is significant, and also from a consultancy side, which we've touched on all the way through this conversation. So, and I think probably more so in Saudi than ever before. Our consultancy team are extremely busy over there, because there's just such a huge amount going on over there. And what's fantastic with Saudi is that they really are bringing the world's best consultants. And I'm not just saying that's us, but I'm saying it's the management consultants, it's the designers, it's the architects, they really are taking it very, very seriously, and at making sure, because the amount of growth and the amount of supply that's coming to Saudi in a very short period of time, they really are making sure that all of these assets and schemes, and using our insight as well to ensure they're positioned as they should be. This isn't a quick hit. I mean, this is a long-term plan.
It is.
And with the amount of supply that's coming, they need to make sure that they are setting themselves up for continued growth and opportunity, and they're doing it the right way. So So in a nutshell, those are the services that we offer. We are extremely busy at the moment, which is a good place to be. So we had a record year last year, and we're already tabling a record year for this year as well.
Wow.
So across the business. So hugely exciting times for us, and like any market, is turning this back to the first thing we said at the beginning of this call, as this interview, there's opportunity everywhere, and for us, it's about how we support our clients in a challenging marketplace, and really adding value and giving them that benefit.
Absolutely incredible, Anthony. This has been an incredible discussion with you. Thank you very much for joining us. As you said, I'm sure you're very busy. That's why we really appreciate that you coming here and sharing us this insights coming from an expert.
No, Justin, you're more than welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to speaking to you again.
Thank you very much. Anthony Spary, everyone, Director and Head of Retail at CBRE. Thanks for listening. Subscribe now to the Voice on Demand podcast in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. See you in the next episode.